have those applause going, please. Thank you.
Well, a loud round of applause, as if you've had a breakfast session this morning. Thank you to the lovely audience, and thank you, Adar Poonawalla, for joining us here at the 8th edition of the India Economic Conclave. It wouldn't be wrong to say that you've been the man in every Indian's life for the last 2 years. How does that make you feel?
Thank you, firstly, for those kind words. And, it's overwhelming that Serum Institute and I have been able to play such an important and crucial role at this critical time and impact the lives of so many Indians and, globally also get our Indian vaccines made here and exported to as many countries as possible. So it's really overwhelming, and I'm so grateful for the love and support that everyone has given us. So thank you.
Has it been love all the way? Because every movement, every step you take, every breath you've been taking has been followed, whether you're in London, whether you're in any part of the world. People have wondered if you've run away. Has it been all comfortable, all smiles, or a little bit of heartache personally for you?
Well, when there was a crunch for vaccines and there was a lot of anxiety during the second wave, that was a particularly difficult time for everybody, in fact, not just for us. And we came out of that quite well. I mean, of course, when there's tremendous pressure and there's a lot of expectations, and if you're vocal about things that matter, then you are going to take a little bit of criticism. There's been a lot of praise for what we've done, but there's been an equal amount of criticism also. But we take that in our stride, and anyone who's making an impact of that level, you are going to have critics where you're questioned or you're asked for clarifications every step of the way, and we've learned how to handle that. So I think we're okay on that now.
Adar Poonawalla, we're seeing numbers rising up once again. Across the world, many countries showing those signs, whether it is Italy, whether it's China, whether it's South Korea, and of course, even in India, daily cases seem to be going up. This, added with the fact that we are now looking at a situation where the government has said that the third dose, preventive dose should come in. Do you think that's reducing any of your anxiety?
Well, we've been requesting the government since December to allow boosters in our country. Globally, if you look at, what's happening, everyone's taking boosters. Having said that, our vaccines made in India have worked very well. India's cases, hospitalizations, they're so much better, or rather lower, compared to Europe and the United States, which have been taking the messenger RNA vaccines and other vaccines. So even if you look at China, what's happening. So we're in a good position because of the vaccines that the Indian government chose to use in our program. Having said that, how many lives could we still prevent, from how many hospitalizations we could prevent going forward in future waves is dependent on the boosters and the level of boosters our country takes. We won't need 4 and 5 boosters like others have done, but I think in the urban areas and for the vulnerable, I think boosters is very important. We're already a bit late on it, but we still have time before the next waves come to look, the waves in the future are never going to be as bad as what we saw this time last year. But still, nevertheless, if we can save a few thousand serious hospitalizations or even deaths, it's worth getting those boosters and taking care of the vulnerable and the certain age groups that are affected by it. So I highly recommend it.
Mr. Poonawalla, you've been saying that a 6-month gap is better than the 9th-month gap that the government has been recommending. Do you still stand by that? Or in the old Indian political style, people are saying, अरे ये बेचना चाहता अपनी वैक्सीन इसीलिए बोल रहा है.
So, very well put. In fact, we have got 200 million doses of stock. We shut down production in December. I've even offered to give free donations to whoever wants to take it. The problem is, because, we've now sold enough vaccines last year, so it's not a commercial point. People want to travel. And if you've taken a shot, with this 9-month gap, if you work backwards, it's August. The month of August, August, September last year. So if you've taken the vaccine after that period, you can't travel. So that's one of the major reasons why we have proposed, because I get a lot of inquiries that, when can we have the booster? We need to travel. And so that was one of the reasons. And of course, globally, it's seen that after 6 months, the antibody levels go down. So why wait for 9 months? So there is a lot of scientific rationale for it. A lot of the experts in India have also agreed with that. And I think very soon the government will reduce the gap from 9 to 6 months, which is the right decision going forward for boosters as well.
Mr. Poonawalla, the children vaccine for the age group of 5 to 11 is the vaccine awaiting regulatory clearances. And I normally like to have a little X factor in the question. So I want to ask you, are we back to our old ways? कि आराम से हो जाएगा clearance, जल्दी क्या है? Or have we lost the urgency in clearances that we saw in the throes of the first and the second wave?
So I've always maintained that the momentum that we, as in the private sector and the public sector, had in getting fast-track approvals and, launching vaccines and completing trials and all of that was happening at record speeds during the pandemic. You're absolutely right. Now, I've seen that already in Delhi over the last 3 months. We have gone back to what I would say, usual normal course of business.
Business as usual.
Business as usual, where, look, the urgency isn't there. There are other priorities. So we are taking our time with approvals, and that's where you're seeing a lot of delays. Committees can't meet on time or don't meet on time to decide on matters. Take, for example, your question on Covovax, which is what I think you're referring to, our vaccine, which is being sold in Europe and Australia, but we can't put it on our CoWIN app right now in India because of the government has to take its decisions on how to implement it in the program. We've got approval from the regulator, yet we cannot sell it and give it to our children in India. So these are the kind of hurdles that we need to get over. And, the government of India recognizes very much so the importance of health now, especially during this pandemic. And Modi ji has sent this message to all the ministries and bureaucrats that we must, grow and support this sector. But I don't see that happening. I see, the old ways of just, going on, as you put it best, business as usual. And I hope that we can get that momentum back.
Mr. Adar Poonawalla, when you make a statement like this, do you worry it'll get you into trouble?
No. I have been in trouble for other statements I've made, but this is something that is needed, and there's nothing wrong with it. This fallacy that the Modi government doesn't like criticism is not accurate. I think if you raise an issue, which is an issue, a genuine issue, and you raise it in the right way, constructively, to move forward, I think the Modi government takes it in the right spirit, and we appreciate that of the government. I think it's just the right way. You have to put it across and explain to all concerned. And look, we've got an excellent relationship. We've been working very well, closely with everyone. And I'm even today not criticizing anything that they're doing. I'm just saying we can do things faster. We can do more, just like what we were doing in the pandemic. And we shouldn't lose that momentum that we had during the pandemic.
Mr. Poonawalla, I want to ask you, because many people have had reservations on vaccinating children. Is it really necessary, given the fact that even if children do get infected, the fact is that it isn't so severe, and long-term impacts of vaccines still not proven? So people are little hesitant. Do you think the reason the regulatory clearances are taking so long is because all of these factors need to be weighed in?
No, I think that's just a process. And as I said, if we can, speed that process up like it was during the pandemic, it'll take care of itself. But the question you've asked, is it necessary for children to take the vaccine? Yes. Are they less vulnerable to this disease? Yes, they recover faster. They're not affected. Most of the children have asymptomatic conditions. But if we're talking about opening up schools and protecting even a few thousand lives compared to the millions that were at risk in the adult population, it's still worth doing, because you can't put a price tag or a question mark on a life. So whatever we can protect, it's worth doing. Children get all kinds of vaccines, from measles, hepatitis, tetanus, from the time they're born. So this is just going to be one additional vaccine that they're going to have to take. For example, pneumonia is a major killer in children under the age of 5. So we've got a vaccine for that, which we launched in 2019. So this will probably be just one more that all children will have to take in a routine immunization program going forward.
How far are we away from having this vaccine as part of the regular vaccination schedule for children and for adults?
I think that's again a decision that the experts will have to make. Maybe in a year's time, they'll decide on that. Right now, if you look at the coverage that the children will also get if we vaccinate them this year, then there's a little gap that there'll probably be before it's put into the universal immunization program. I think the Health Ministry is thinking about that, but hasn't decided anything on that yet.
Mr. Adar Poonawalla, till 10th of April, nearly 18 crore people were eligible for booster shots, and now over 94 crore people are eligible. Do you think the reason that we took so long to have this booster shot decision coming in is something to do with the supplies, or is it just business as usual decision making that took so long?
No, there's been no issue on supplies. In fact, in December, on the 31st of December, I announced that I'm shutting down the production because we've got 200 million doses that we were producing on a monthly basis at that time, as stock. So I didn't know what to do with the product, so I had to tell them, shut down the production, otherwise it'll all expire. And that's why, we may even end up giving free doses as we come closer to expiry, because what are we to do with it?
And you've reduced the price of every Covishield vaccination to 225 rupees because you have excess stock, and in any case it will go waste? Or
no, it was because because either way it wasn't going to make a difference, because someone who was going to pay 600 rupees or 200 rupees, it wouldn't matter. But what we felt is that even for the common man, for the lowest socioeconomic groups, it is a lot of money, because you just don't look at yourself, it's your family as well. So when we realized, and someone raised that to us, that even a family of 4 would have to pay 600 into 4, plus the hospital charges, plus the transport of going there, it does go into quite a bit. And so in discussions with the government also, we said, let's bring it down. Let's make it as affordable and accessible to as many people as possible. But that's also hardly made a difference, in the uptake, because a lot of people have now got what we call vaccine fatigue, COVID fatigue. Nobody wants to talk or listen to anyone about COVID anymore, and rightly so. We've all gone through hell.
And then suddenly the numbers begin to creep up.
So that's what happens. And then when the numbers begin to creep up, then we get activated and then said, okay, chalo, let's maybe take a booster.
So do you think the booster decision was prodded along because numbers started to go up in China and other parts of the world, and we almost became used to a life without masks again, and now masks are coming back into our lives in different states? Vaccinations will follow?
Well, I think it's a combination of factors. Yes, worldwide the cases are going up. You need also a vaccine to travel. You are seeing cases go up. So it's a combination of all these factors where now the emphasis on boosters may become a little more relevant than they were. And yes, with the gap being reduced also from 9 to 6 months, that's, in my opinion, the most important part that we need to focus on now.
Mr. Adar Poonawalla, right now we are sitting at a stage in our country where things seem to be pretty much under control as far as the COVID situation is concerned. Can you share with our audiences today, I'm sure you've said this before, but in person, what was it like in those beginning months when you had bet on the Oxford University, the whole scientific process, waiting, producing, and wondering whether this would be a success? From a management perspective, was there a plan B? Were you only banking on a plan A to be successful? What were the thoughts in your mind and with the top-notch people in your group?
Well, it was a time of huge uncertainty. Nobody knew what vaccines would work, which technologies would work. So we, in fact, bet on 3 or 4 different candidates: Novavax, the Oxford AstraZeneca, Codogenics, and some others. In 2020, one of the reasons why we were able to produce so much ahead of time and more than anyone else was because of the risks we took at that time. Building the capacity, buying the raw materials, flying down engineers when there were no flights available, doing all of that in 2020 helped us build those facilities. Now, it could have gone terribly wrong, and we put in a lot of our capital as well. We went to philanthropists like Bill Gates, and we raised capital as advances from other countries. We raised more than 10,000 crores between our capital and outside capital. We even looked at diluting a stake in Serum from private equity to raise that capital, but then we didn't need to do it because we went to countries and philanthropists instead.
And that was